Welcome to this lecture on Animal Farm, a political allegorical novel written by George Orwell. In this lesson, we will examine the novel as a literary work by focusing on its basic elements of fiction and by applying selected literary approaches. Although Animal Farm appears simple on the surface, it is a deeply political and philosophical text that critiques power, leadership, and the betrayal of ideals. This lecture will help you understand how literature functions not only as storytelling, but also as social criticism. This lecture examines Animal Farm first as a literary text. It will show the elements of fiction. Second, a political allegory. And third, a social critique relevant across historical and contemporary context. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify and explain the major elements of fiction present in Animal Farm, including character, setting, plot, conflict, point of view, and theme. You should also be able to analyze the novel using formalist, socio-political, and historical approaches. Finally, you should be able to explain why Animal Farm remains relevant to contemporary societies and political realities. George Orwell was an English writer, journalist, and political thinker known for his clear prose and strong opposition to authoritarianism. His writings reflect his belief that language and power are closely connected. Orwell wrote Animal Farm in 1945 after observing how revolutionary ideals in the Soviet Union were corrupted by dictatorship. His goal was not merely to tell a story, but to warn readers about how power can distort truth and morality. What is Animal Farm? Animal Farm is a political allegory and a satirical novella. On the surface, it tells the story of farm animals who rebel against their human owner in order to establish a society based on equality. However, beneath this simple narrative lies a complex critique of political revolutions, particularly those that promise equality but result in oppression. The novel shows how noble ideas can be manipulated by those who seek power. An allegory is a literary form in which characters, events, and settings represent abstract ideas or historical realities. In Animal Farm, the animals represent social groups and political figures, while the farm represents a state of nation. Orwell uses allegory to make complex political ideas easier to understand, allowing readers to see patterns of power, corruption, and manipulation more clearly. So, here are the functions of allegory. It simplifies complex political ideas, makes criticism accessible and memorable, encourages readers to question authority. Major characters. The characters in Animal Farm are animals, but they are written to represent human roles and society. Napoleon symbolized the rise of tyrannical leadership. Snowball represents idealistic but politically defeated reformers. Boxer embodies the hard-working but exploited working class, while Squealer represents propaganda and misinformation. Each character is carefully constructed to illustrate how individuals function within systems of power. Okay? Napoleon, the character Napoleon, and the symbolic role is Stalin. The character Snowball, the symbolic role is Trotsky. The character Boxer and its symbolic role is the working class or exploited labor. Squealer, its symbolic role is propaganda and manipulation, and Old Major is a symbolic role of revolutionary ideology of Marx and Lenin. Characters in literature may be static or dynamic. Dynamic characters undergo significant change, while static characters remain largely the same. In Animal Farm, Napoleon and Snowball are dynamic characters whose belief and actions evolve as the struggle for power intensifies. In contrast, Boxer remains static. His loyalty and dedication never change, even when these traits are exploited by those in authority. Setting. The setting of Animal Farm is a farm in rural England, initially called Manor Farm and later renamed Animal Farm. While the physical location remains the same, the social and political environment changes dramatically. The farm becomes a symbol of a state that transitions from hopeful revolution to oppressive dictatorship. This transformation highlights how environments reflect political and moral decay. The plot of Animal Farm follows a clear structure. The exposition introduces all major revolutionary ideas. The rising action shows the animals' rebellion and early success. The climax occurs when Snowball is expelled from the farm. The falling action shows Napoleon's consolidation of power, and the resolution reveals that the animals are no longer able to distinguish pigs from humans. This structure enforces the theme of corrupted ideals. Conflict is central to the narrative of Animal Farm. The novel presents external conflicts such as the struggle between Napoleon and Snowball, and internal conflicts such as tension between equality and authority. The most important conflict is ideological, the struggle between the original revolutionary principles and the reality of political control. Point of view. The novel is written in the third person omniscient point of view. This allows the narrator to describe events objectively while revealing how characters are deceived or manipulated. The reader often understands the truth before the animals do, creating dramatic irony and reinforcing Orwell's critique of propaganda and misinformation. Language and style. Orwell's language in Animal Farm is deliberately simple and direct. The style resembles a fable, which makes the novel accessible to a wide audience. Repetition of slogans and commandments demonstrates how language can be used to control thought and suppress critical reasoning. This simplicity makes the novel's political message even more powerful. The major themes of Animal Farm. This includes the corruption of power, betrayal of ideals, manipulation of truth, and social inequality. The novel shows that revolutions often fail not because of ideals are wrong, but because those in power exploit them. Orwell emphasizes that ignorance and blind obedience allow oppression to flourish. Formalist, formalist approach. A formalist approach focuses on the text itself, its structure, language, symbolism, and narrative techniques. Using this approach, we examine how Orwell's use of allegory, irony, and repetition contributes to meaning. The form of the novel reinforces its message, showing how literary techniques shape interpretation. Socio-political Marxist approach. From a socio-political or Marxist perspective, Animal Farm explores class struggle and economic exploitation. The pigs represent the ruling elite, while Boxer and the other animals represent the working class. The novel illustrates how those who control ideology and resources dominate society, often at the expense of laborers. Historical allegorical approach. Historically, Animal Farm parallels the Russian Revolution and the rise of Stalinist dictatorship. Old Major reflects revolutionary ideology, while Napoleon represents authoritarian leadership. Orwell uses history not to retell events, but to critique how revolutions can betray their original goals. Contemporary relevance. Despite being published in 1945, Animal Farm remains relevant today. The novel helps readers understand modern issues such as political manipulation, media propaganda, and the abuse of power. It encourages readers to question authority and to think critically about leadership and governance. In conclusion, Animal Farm demonstrates how literature can expose political realities and moral failures. By studying its elements of fiction and applying literary approaches, we gain a deeper understanding of how power operates in society. Orwell's message remains clear. Without awareness and critical thinking, equality can easily become oppression. Here are the references. Thank you very much.